We call it a lot of things. We call it a craving. We call it a sweet tooth. We call it a reward for a long day. We call it an indulgence. But really, for most of us, it's an addiction. Sugar is something that a lot of us want to eliminate, but find that it's not as easy as it sounds. Here are the 5 A's of sugar that we have to fight against. And before we get started, this is about added, processed, and refined additives and sweeteners put in food and drinks. Not many people complain about needing to give up eating whole apples and oranges. The first A of sugar is availability. Almost 70% of all the items in the grocery store have added sugar in them. Sugar is used to replace the flavor lost when fat is removed, and to cover up the salty or bitter taste of processed foods. We've gone from eating 2 pounds of sugar per person per year, 200 years ago, to 152 pounds per person per year. That's about 3 pounds per week. We are constantly exposed to it. It's abundantly available and present in our diet, even beyond the obvious treats and indulgences we typically consider. The second A of sugar is anonymity. Sugar has over 50 different names. And with clever labeling, companies are selling what you think is food with no sugar, but really sneaking it in there with different names. So we see something like dextrose, maltodextrin, or turbinado on the label and don't realize they've been added to hide the amount of added sweetener in the food. And you can often find sugar listed 5 or 10 times in different forms on the same label. The third A of sugar is admiration. There is something to say about advertising and the power of suggestion. We've come to love sugar and sweets so much that it's become a major part of almost all celebrations, good times, and even holidays. Are there any major holidays that don't have some sugar as a part of its tradition? In fact, that's exactly what the makers of these products are counting on to sell their products. We've come to admire sugar and sweets so much that it has become a signature part of showing other people how much we admire them. I love you. I apologize. Welcome to the team. Here's some sugar. The fourth A of sugar is addictive. Addiction is a term that describes a compulsive use of a habit-forming substance. There are some substances that are toxic but not generally abused. And there are also some substances that are abused and not generally toxic, like caffeine. Sugar is toxic at the levels we currently consume it at. And it's also abused. There are 2 key components for something to be considered an addiction, and that's tolerance and withdrawal. When you consume sugar, the reward center of your brain produces high levels of dopamine. The more you consume, the more you'll have to pile on each time in order to get the same high. And that is the cycle of tolerance. What about withdrawal? You can experience some of the same mental and physical symptoms of sugar withdrawal that you'd get with the common drug addictions. Mood swings, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, and cravings. You can also get some of the same physical symptoms of withdrawal like lightheadedness, nausea, or fatigue. We can become dependent as we overconsume added sugar and trigger the same chemical pathways that hardcore drugs do. The fifth and final A of sugar is that it's allowed. Taxpayers pay billions of dollars in direct and indirect subsidies to the sugar industry. So we pay to subsidize the substance, then pay again for the healthcare costs required to treat the chronic metabolic diseases it causes. Only recently did the FDA require manufacturers to include the amount of added sugars in grams on the nutrition facts label. And finally, food and beverage companies have been allowed to say that there is no difference between the 800 calories of processed foods they sell and 800 calories of real food you'd get from fruits and vegetables. Those are the 5 A's of sugar addiction. It's available everywhere. It's almost unavoidable. It's often anonymously added into our food using creative names. It's an admired and well-thought-of substance that represents love and kindness. It's an addictive and often abused substance that our bodies crave. And finally, companies are allowed to shove it in their products without accountability. If you found value in this video, please subscribe and make sure you're getting notifications so you can stay in focus on all aspects of your health and wellness.